night. Can I have one joy tonight? God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma Jill Spiritual. I'm going to give you a word on today, on tonight, and we still doing Bible study. Um, the title gonna be "Out of Destroy the King." You remember this is the king had placed an order to kill the Israelite. Remember he killed 36 Israelites, and see they was defeated because they didn't have God. Okay, so now God had told them to get rid of all them idols, stuff that it only was one person, of the Israelite had took all that stuff, but it affect the whole group, the whole the Israelite, the whole community. So God said, get rid of all that stuff, and then I'll be with you. Because God is mighty, mighty in war, and He be ready. He give them directions of what to do. They was defeated yesterday, but they will win today. So you're going to come for Joshua chapter 8, 1 through 29. So the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid. Because see, they're about to go to war now. And God about to tell them how we going to do this here. So He's telling them, don't be afraid. He's telling them, don't be discouraged. God said, take the whole army with you. Remember last time they took a little army because they figured there was a few people in that land. So now God said, take the whole army with you and go up and attack the king. His people, attack the king, his people, the city, and the land. God gonna do it all. He said, now we see that God involved, in this fight. And remember, the king had killed 36 of the Israelite men. So now God have delivered, He will deliver them into their hands. The king, the people, the city, the land. God had told Joshua, do to the king as you had did to Joshua. You see what I'm saying? So we don't know why they didn't do that the last time, but they didn't have God in it like the last yesterday, so there was in fear, they was uncomfortable. They didn't know if they were gonna win or not, and they did got defeated yesterday. So Jacob was also say, carry off their plunder and lifestyle for yourself. Now, so God did tell them to carry out the plunder for themselves. So God says set an ambush, behind the city. So see, God is mighty in war. So He telling them, we gonna ambush them, but go behind the city. God also gonna tell them we gonna pretend like, we ready to attack them, just to have them to come on out the city, and ambush them. So don't. And then He told them, go behind. We gonna ambush them behind the city. He said, don't go too far. You don't go too far. So now God is in charge. So be alert. So God in the mix of this civil war right here. Y'all ain't had nobody, in war with y'all yesterday. Y'all ain't had no instructions, no preparation, no nothing. You just send them in out there without consulting God, and you send them in out there and they got defeated. So now God is in charge. So be alert. So and all these uh with me will advance on the city, and when the men come out against them as they did before, flee, flee, flee. Because see, the whole thing is to get them out of that city, and they were going to go in and ambush. See, God know how to, He mighty in war and battle. So when they pursue us until we have lured them away from the city. See, that's the purpose. So when they running away from us, as they did before, and when we flee from them, you are to raise up your ambush and take the city. They going the Israelites supposed to pretend like they're fleeing, just to have them to come on out the city. And then when they come out the city, then you ambush them. So the Lord your God will give it into your hands. So when you have taken the city, set it on fire. So that's what God said. When y'all take that city, then set it on fire. So do what the Lord had commanded you in order. So now God is in the mix. He heard, that they got defeated yesterday. But now God placed an order to attack the king, because the king was the one placed the order to attack the Israelites. So you're going to attack the king, you're going to attack the people, the city, the land, he done killed God's people, his chosen one. So now after Israel had been clean, remember they had to clean themselves yesterday. They had to get rid of all that stuff that one person had took. Then they all had to clean themselves, you know. And Joshua had to prepare to attack. Order for God to prepare to attack, they had to clean themselves. They had to get rid of all the image of all that stuff that they had took. Well, at least one had took. So they did not know that God had restored his power and protection to Joshua. Because you remember Joshua was drained. Remember yesterday he fell down to his face. He was in sorrow because he the one sent the men out there without even consulting God. So his power, God had to renew his power, and protect Joshua, because Joshua was drained. Joshua was too even scared to even go out there to try to fight again. So that's why God gonna tell him, don't be afraid, don't be discouraged. Because you got God with you now. Yesterday you didn't have God with you, and he fell down to his face. He felt guilty, because the men got killed and he did not consult God. So we must depend on God. Absolutely, he is obedience to be sure of the victory that he had promised. He gonna make sure they gonna get victory this time. So Joshua followed order and he sent them all. And they went to the place of ambush behind the city, like he said, and lay in, and wait between Bethel and Ai. And now early in the morning, Joshua must have marched before the king. So the interfolks that was with him and marched up and approached the city. They approached the city and they arrived in front of it. So now we see that our God is mighty. We see our God is mighty, mighty in battle. Ready. I mean, he ready for what? He got everything all mapped out. So now the Israelite will surely win. They will surely win this side. You got mighty God. I mean, he ready for what? He ready for battle. So that surely will win this time. Joshua don't have to fall down on his face this time. So Joshua had taken about 5,000 men and set them in ambush between Bethel and to the west of the city. So they're getting ready. So the soldiers took up their position in the main camp to the north of the city, ambushed to the west. So they got men on the west, the north, the side, behind the city. God got everything in order. So the ambush the west of it. So the night Joshua had went into the valley, took him a little nap. So when the king saw this, he and all the men of the city hurried out early in the morning to meet Israel. So when they saw that, you remember they could see them way far ahead. So when they saw the Israelite, they called themselves went out there to try to meet the Israelite in battle like it did the last time. So at a certain place overlooking, and he did not know that they was gonna ambush him, and he been set against them. So they set him up this time. So they was behind the city. So remember, God had told them to ambush, the king behind the city. But he didn't, but don't go too far. So they are taking God's order, and Joshua and all the Israelites driven back before them, and they flee towards the wilderness. And it all was God plan. They pretending like they're running in the wilderness just to get them, lure them out of the city. So all the men of Ai, was called to pursue them and pursue Joshua, and were lured away from the city. So he thought he was gonna win this time again. He talking about he wants Joshua too. So now the man remained. in the king ambassador who did not go after them. Now see, he was slick. He saw his men after the Israel, but he stood behind. But he was the one that God wanted. But he stood behind and took sent all the men out there. So when they left the city open, and went to pursue to Israel. The Lord said to Joshua, "Hold out." See, God can see everything. He see that this king did not go out after the Israel like they thought he was. He stood behind. So that's why God said, "Wait, hold up, Joshua, hold up, Joshua. The main person that we want is not running behind Israel. It stood behind. So God said, hold up. So that is your hand, for into your hand I will deliver the city." And Joshua hold back, just like God said. So soon as they did what God had said, what God had ordered, the men in the ambush rose quickly from their position, and rushed forward. So they listened, they hold up. They got in position, and then when they entered the city and captured it and quickly set it on fire. So they set it on fire. You better remember, the king sat back when he did not go after the Israelite like they thought he was. So we see our God is mighty. God can see what's ahead of you. He can see what's on the side of you and behind you. He saw that king did not come out of that city. He see that he stood behind. So God said, hold up, hold up. The main person that we want is not running behind Israel. So God is almighty in war. That Israel will win this time. And ambush the king who ordered to have 36 Israel men killed, and that's why they after this king. So with God, Israel will win. Without God, there was defeated. So the Lord gave Joshua the city. Yesterday there was defeated. Because today is victory. Now once Joshua had prayed, Joshua had to pray because he felt the guilty. Because he sent them men out there to fight war. But he did not consult God. You see, when we don't consult God and we just try to do things on our own, things gonna fall apart. And things will happen. Just like he didn't consult God. And look what happened. He sent them men out there and 36 of them got killed. So he prayed, he admitted that he was wrong, without consulting God. Now first the Israel had cleaned themselves and God was willing to give them one more chance. Victory lies ahead. So with God, direction that we need is not, not stay discouraged. Because see, he was discouraged. He was sad. He had his face down. He prayed to God for a long time until evening came. That's just how long he was down there on his knees. So no matter how difficult, a setback. I have plenty of setbacks. No matter how long, no matter how difficult, and your setback, bring, we must renew our effort to carry out God's will. And that's what I do. Might get laughed at and everything else for holding on to my faith, but it all worked out fine at the end. So Joshua had a difficult time. He was sad. They had a setback yesterday, but he prayed to God to turn everything around. See, prayers work. You see what I'm saying? Communication with God work. He prayed, because you can have a bad day yesterday, but if you pray, that's why we have a brand new day each day. So when you don't get it right that day, you get it right the next day. But you got to pray to God. He prayed to God and he said he was guilty. He felt guilty that them men was killed because he sent them out there. Because like when you don't pray to God, that's just like me. Before I leave out my house, I have to pray. When I forget to pray, you just feel funny that you didn't pray, because you feel, when you pray, you feel covered. You see what I'm saying? You feel covered. You feel protected. But without prayer and without consulting God, when you have to do something, it gonna always fall apart and not go right. You got to have that shield. You got to pray to have the knowledge and the discernment and everything else. Joshua didn't have that because he did not consult and pray to God. So no matter how difficult our setback is, no matter how your pain and suffering is, it always the next day. You know, Yesterday was defeated. Today, they won in victory. So now the Israelite, they was defeated yesterday. 36 men was killed, and Joshua was very disappointed, and he was sad. So Joshua he thought that name was going to be ended. Remember, he was worrying about the name. Oh God, what people gonna say now? People gonna be laughing and talking. We got defeated. I was in shock that we got defeated. Now what they gonna make of our name? See, Joshua worrying about the name. Because he was in shock that they got defeated. So God said, just calm down. Just calm down. What I need y'all to do is clean yourself, get rid of all that stuff, and then, we gonna do this again the next day. So God had give Joshua some power, renew his strength, because he was so sad and distressed. He was sad and distressed. So God had to renew his strength and his power and everything else. But today we see that God has stepped in, and they were able to keep their name as high standards, and they won. The Israelite is history. And God was gonna not let their name go down the drain. He was gonna not let their name go down the drain. God had to step in, but they had to do one thing, for God to step in. Joshua had admit, okay, I'm guilty, forgive me, I will never do it again. I'm going to consult you on everything. We got to consult God with everything. So he figured that was a few people. We talked about that yesterday. He figured that was a few people, a small problem that he figured he just stepped in position as a leader, so he didn't want to bother God for some small problem. But guess what? Small problem had caused him 36 deaths. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes small problems can still be difficult. So we have to still consult God with the small problem, the big stuff. With the big stuff, we crying. We all on our knees praying to God. With the small problem, Joshua had pride, because he had just become to be a leader. He didn't want to consult God with small problem. You know. So okay, so the men are out. Stop. So men of the king, they looked back and they saw the smoke. You see what I'm saying? So they ran out the city to run behind the Israelites. But all the while they was pretending that they was running in the wilderness. All the while they were waiting for them to come out, for them to go in and burn. Remember, God said, when they come out, y'all go in and burn that city up. So that's what they did. So that's when one of them turned around, they saw the smoke and everything, So they saw the smoke, So the city raising up into the sky, but they had no chance to escape in a direction. They had nowhere to go in the direction. So the Israelite who had been fleeing towards the wilderness had turned back against their pursuer. So when Joshua had saw the ambush had taken the city, and the smoke was gone in front of it, and they turned around and they attacked the men of the king. They attacked the king, they attacked all the men. So when they came out of the city against them, they was caught in the middle, but the Israelite, on both sides. But the Israelite caught them down, leaving them neither survivor or fugitive, and they took the king alive. See, they want to take the king alive. Take him alive, and brought him to Joshua. So they took the king alive. And then they took it to Joshua. So when Israel had finished killing all the men in the field, and in the wilderness, so they killed all the people in the field, all the people in the wilderness, what they had chased them, and when every one of them had been put to sword, the Israelite had killed those who was in it, because they had killed them with passion, because then they killed the Israelite, 36 of them, so 12,000 men and women had felt their day. So all the people of the king, Joshua didn't hold back. Because he already felt the guilty that he sent them men out there and they got killed yesterday. So Joshua didn't hold back. He felt the type of way. He attacking him on a personal level now. He did not hold back until they all were destroyed. He took it personal. So the Israelites carried off for themselves the livestock plunder in this city. Remember, God had told her, take the plunder with you. So as the Lord instructed Joshua, Joshua buried the king and made it a permanent heap around. So he took the king, he burnt him up, and then they put him on a post. So he empowered the body of the king on a post, and left it there until evening. At sunset. So Joshua ordered them to take the body from the pole and throw it down at the entrance of the city gate. So we see that God stepped in. God is almighty in battle. He had good instruction, to give them. And they followed. They took that king alive, brought that king to Joshua, burned him up and put him on a post. Left him there until evening. So they was defeated yesterday. But God gave them victory today. But now you see, yesterday they didn't have God in their life. They didn't have God at all. And they was defeated. God stepped in the next day. And God gave them victory. Give them that city. Give them that king. Burnt him up and put him on that post. You had all that done today with God on their side. So the battle. During the night, Joshua had sent one detachment, a soldier, to the west of the king to be in wait. So the next morning, he led a second group, north of the king. And when an army of the king attacked, the north they pretended, to scatter, only to turn on the enemy as the men lying in ambush. That was all God planned. Move in. So God has said, move in. When you move in that city, you make sure you burn it up. Burn that city up. And so when they was doing all that running, the king left behind. So king left behind, so then when he started smelling the smoke, he turned around and went to try to pursue Joshua in the Israelite, and that's when they took him alive and brought him to Joshua, and that's when they burnt him up. So he lined in ambush, moved in, and they burnt the city, and they all look at the king and took the city. So they took the city. They made victory because God was with them. So I know the next time that Joshua will consult God. No matter if your problem is small or your problem big, we're gonna consult God. So we see what happened, with the Israelites, with Joshua, when you did not consult God. Because you feel like the problem was so small, by you had just become to get in position as a leader, you want to show God that you can handle it. But sometimes when you're a leader, it's good to ask questions. It's good, to pray and talk to God. It's just like in school. Pray to God before you take a test. Ain't nothing wrong with going to God. Because you're a leader. Some people feel like you're a leader that you got to know it all. We're not perfect. We can't know it. We don't have to know it all. You know, Joshua felt like he was showing God that okay, I'm a leader. I got this here. He thought he was gonna come back with good news and came back with bad news. You know? So this story here was about the continue on yesterday. You know, when the Israelite had got defeated. They got defeated. You know, but the next day God stepped in. All they had to do was follow instructions. Joshua admit, you know, that he was wrong. You know, that he didn't consult God and he sent them men out there and them men got killed. He was so disappointed. He was so sad and distressed why he had to get face down on the floor, you know, and bow down to God. He prayed so long till evening came. You know, that's how long he prayed. You know, and he wanted God to forgive him because he said he sinned. He said he was guilty, you know, and he couldn't forgive himself, you know. So God had told him, don't be afraid. You know, we're going to get up the next morning and we're going to do this again. You know, that's good to have a next day. You know, you can renew your strength, get back up, and do it and try again. So that's all the word I have for y'all tonight. You know, y'all have a blessed day, and I'll see y'all on the next video.